Biological evolution is too slow for the human species. Over the next few decades, it's going to be left in the dust.
Eugenics dominated the 20th century. Its ruthless spirit has now metastasized into the fields of genetics, nanotech, and robotics. But that's not surprising. From their inception, all three disciplines have been dominated by eugenicists. The billionaire founder of Sun Microsystems, Bill Joy, courageously went public in 2000 to warn of a cancerous consensus among the technocratic elite that at best humanity would be completely enslaved by the year 2030, and at worst, mass extermination of everyone but the elite would take place. A who's who of the techno-elite are members of what is known as the transhumanist or post-humanist movement. Many of its adherents see only the beneficial aspects of technology's exponential rise, like bringing sight to the blind, sound to the deaf, and longer life for all. But what many of them don't know is that master eugenicist Julian Huxley founded transhumanism, and that society's controllers openly admit that the new system is designed to progress into absolute tyranny. Leading transhumanist Ray Kurzweil boasts that technological advancements will allow those that can afford it to live forever, but admits that most won't be able to keep up with the new master race. The drive for world government is now all about who will control and have access to radical life extension systems.
Biological evolution is too slow for the human species. Over the next few decades, it's going to be left in the dust.
Transhumanists believe that they will attain the fountain of youth by merging with technology. Now, it may be within their reach. Decades ago, transhumanists said that if you did not accept augmentation or enhancements, you would no longer be able to get jobs. And now it's happening today.
The elite who occupy the commanding heights of digital reality are suicidal nihilists. Suicidal nihilists know that there is no longer any substantive purpose to their willing, but they would always prefer to go on willing than not to act at all. They can very happily ally themselves with the notion of nuclear holocaust or perfect exterminism.
Technology has become so powerful in its capacity for destruction that free humanity cannot afford to let psychopathic technocrats with delusions of grandeur repeat the mistakes of their forebears, because it is highly probable that this time they may destroy everything, including themselves, in their mad rush for godhood. In this film, we have chronicled the overlord's bloody orgy of experimentation, which already claimed the lives of more than 150 million people in the 20th century. And now, they are promising to deliver an invincible tyranny that will dwarf their past exploits. In the days of World War II, there were sovereign nations and armies to stand against Hitler's final solution. Once world government is in place, no one will be able to stop the New World Order's plans for global population reduction. For those immune to psychological programming, hundreds of FEMA camps have already been built throughout the United States. In their quest for population reduction, no method is off the table. These dark builders intend to release a string of man-made bioweapons plagues, each one worse than the last, while at the same time expanding the police state to enforce an orderly extermination of the population, all in the name of fighting invisible terrorists. And the Georgia Guidestones stand today as a cold testament to the elite's sacred mission. To have a two-class system where the underclass are forced to live as slaves in tiny enclosed cities, while the elite enjoy the land of the earth, evolve into superhumans with the aid of advanced implantable technologies, live eternal lives, and travel throughout the cosmos. This is the promise given to the inner members of the New World Order and the agenda of the Bilderberg Group. The architects of the New World Order are in a race to complete the structure of world government so they can suppress the independent development of technologies that threaten their monopoly of power, while at the same time steering new developments in the direction the architects chart for humanity. The technocrats call their governing system the final revolution because in the past, empires were enforced militarily. Now enforcement is primarily psychological and economic, and society itself is a construct of the elite who operate outside the controlled paradigm and control the civilization within, just as a child maintains the environment of a fish tank. We are like lab rats living out our entire existence, never questioning the confines of the cage or the scientists who experiment on us. New World Order engineers have hijacked human destiny. Its controllers have closely studied human behavior for more than 100 years and are now steering us with expert control, using our primitive drives and desires as levers. They have developed their mind control systems to the point of being able to control the average unconscious person like a car. In the near future, Earth is dominated by a powerful world government. Once free nations are slaves to the will of a tiny elite. The dawn of a new dark age is upon mankind. Countries are a thing of the past. Every form of independence is under attack, with the family and even the individual itself nearing extinction. Close to 80% of the Earth's population has been eliminated. The remnants of a once free humanity are forced to live within highly controlled, compact, prison-like cities. Travel is highly restricted. Superhighways connect the megacities and keep the population from entering into unauthorized zones. No human activity is private. AI supercomputers chronicle and categorize every action. A prison planet dominated by a ruthless gang of control freaks, whose power can never be challenged. This is the vision of the global elite, their goal. A program of total dehumanization, where the science of tyranny is law. A worldwide control grid, designed to ensure the overlord's monopoly of power forever. Our species will be condemned to this nightmare future unless the masses are awakened to the New World Order master plan and mobilized to defeat it. Erected by a secretive group, the Georgia Guidestones are a testament to the elite's plan for a world religion, global laws, with a global court and army to enforce it. And set in stone, it is written that the population never rise above 500 million. In this film, you will learn how our world is truly governed. You will see how highly secretive roundtable groups interlock to form a global intelligence network. This group has been steering planetary affairs for hundreds of years. Now, in the final stage, they prepare for open world government. A goal tyrants throughout history have lusted after. Dr. Michael Kaufman is a published ecologist specializing in ecosystem research, forest ecology, and ecosystem classification. Dr. Kaufman played a key role in blocking the ratification of the Convention on Biological Diversity in the U.S. Senate.
The concept of a New World Order has been around for centuries. It's been receiving tremendous play over the last half of the 20th century. George Bush, the first senior president, George Bush, used it a lot in his speeches and really implies that he really wants to see a order in which we have a universal or a global type of governance in which every human being on planet Earth is ultimately responsible to policies that are being formulated at the international level.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Studying shadows like an indoor cat until dusk, when the sky walks me home.
How far has the ancient Illuminati secret society network penetrated world politics? If you read the many books published about conspiracies, then you will learn that many leading authors have alleged that British Prime Minister Tony Blair is a high-ranking Freemason. Mr. Blair is a Queen's Counsel barrister, a profession which has its roots in the Temple Bar, built in London by the Knights Templar secret society in the 12th century. According to many authors, Tony Blair follows the tradition of Masonic membership amongst large numbers of barristers and judges. Mr. Blair is allegedly a member of the 1591 Studholme Masonic Lodge, which meets, amongst other places, at the Café de Paris in London.
The Prime Minister has defended his role in lobbying on behalf of a wealthy Labour Party donor who was negotiating to buy a steel company from the Romanian government. Mr. Blair wrote a letter in support of Lakshmi Mittal, an Indian billionaire who lives in London. Mr. Blair said the letter was a standard one, written on the advice of the Foreign Office. However, opposition MPs are calling for an inquiry into allegations that his intervention helped to clinch the deal for Mr. Mittal's company, which is registered in a Caribbean tax haven. Our political correspondent, Norman Smith, reports.
Lakshmi Mittal donated more than £100,000 to Labour after the last election. Shortly after that, Mr. Blair wrote a letter to the Romanian Prime Minister in support of a successful bid by Mr. Mittal's company, L&M Holdings, to buy a Romanian steelworks.
A retired solicitor once described barristers like Tony Blair as highly paid professional liars. So it is unlikely that Tony Blair will ever come clean about his membership of a secret society. However, one thing we can be sure about. The Masonic establishment at the heart of British society does not like being probed or investigated when it comes to matters of Masonic membership. A recent Select Committee inquiry chaired by Labour MP Chris Mullins found that the Metropolitan Police Force and Judiciary were unwilling to force their members to disclose if they were members of secret societies. In a series of embarrassing revelations in the 1970s and 1980s, the British author Martin Short established that the Scotland Yard Vice Squad and senior CID officers were all Masons and taking bribes from pornographers in London's Soho. Martin Short estimates that 1 in 6 British police officers are Masons, and that there are approximately 600,000 Freemasons in Britain today. Many Freemasons occupy highly paid jobs at local borough councils across Britain, which often have Masonic temples inside council buildings, maintained at the taxpayer's expense. In Scotland, Masons used to proudly parade through the streets. After the exposure of local authority frauds involving corrupt Masonic solicitors and councillors, British Freemasons went underground and now rarely march in view of the public. the public image of British Freemasonry has been damaged by the revelation that supercriminal Kenneth Noye and the men responsible for the Brinks-Mat gold bullion robbery were all Masons. As Prime Minister, Tony Blair has frequent meetings with the Queen. She herself is Grand Patroness of International World Freemasonry, which has its Grand Lodge of England headquarters near Drury Lane in London. The British government employs a huge number of civil servants, magistrates, judges, solicitors and officials, which have all historically been Freemasons. The deceased author of The Brotherhood, Stephen Knight, says that penetration of Freemasonry into the British establishment goes way beyond policemen and parish councils. Knight says that the Palace of Westminster, home to the British Parliament, is used as a meeting place for at least 2 Masonic lodges. One of these lodges is called the New Welcome Masonic Lodge, which regularly hosts blood-curdling rituals and ceremonies inside the Palace of Westminster. Members of Parliament from all political parties gather together, wearing white gloves, sashes, lambskin aprons, and wielding ceremonial daggers, swearing bloodthirsty oaths of allegiance to each other. Just where this leaves British democracy is anyone's guess, but the fact that these secret ceremonies take place in a building paid for by the British taxpayer leaves one wondering if Freemasons do not see themselves as superior to the average British citizen. Many researchers claim British Prime Minister Tony Blair is a high-ranking 33rd degree Freemason. This is the highest rank of Mason, and this elite cabal of British Freemasonry has its own headquarters at number 10 Duke Street, which some claim is connected to number 10 Downing Street via a secret underground tunnel. Inside the Duke Street headquarters of the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree, there is a red room, a black room, and a chamber of death, which Masons use for macabre rituals based on ancient Jewish mysticism and Enochian magic. Once initiated into the 33rd degree, Masons are told they are superior beings, and the human population are referred to as being profane goyim, which means cattle. If Tony Blair is indeed a 33rd degree Freemason, then he is following in the footsteps of previous Prime Ministers, who have all been members of either Freemasonry, the Knights Templar, or the Round Table, which was started by Sir Cecil Rhodes following his economic conquest of Zimbabwe during the 19th century. Winston Churchill was also a 33rd degree Freemason, initiated into the Studholme Lodge at the headquarters of the 33rd degree in May 1901. Winston Churchill was also a member of the Order of Druids, who often meet at Stonehenge during the spring equinox, whilst members of the British public are forcibly restrained from this ancient megalithic site by thousands of police officers. The ancient Druid rituals at Stonehenge can be considered harmless when compared to the murderous, satanically inspired ceremonies of Freemasonry. Most Freemasons do not progress beyond the first 3 degrees or exams of initiation. These are often called the blue degrees. In fact, many Masons do not even realize that beyond the 3rd degree of Master Mason, that there are higher degrees. The higher degrees of Freemasonry are almost exclusively populated by men of aristocratic lineage, or ex-officers of the armed forces. In all, at any one time, there are no more than a few dozen men who reach the 33rd degree. As they pass each ritual test, the ceremonies become more bizarre and include symbols which can be found in ancient Egypt, with initiates being given pompous titles such as sovereign, prince, or knight. when we see Tony Blair meeting with George Bush Jr., we are actually seeing two knights of secret orders. Blair is rumoured to be a sovereign knight of Malta, whilst Bush is confirmed as being a knight of Eulogia, his title bestowed upon him whilst laying in a coffin at the Skull and Bones Secret Society headquarters at Yale University. Blair and Bush claim to have democracy and freedom as their #1 priorities, but both have sworn blood-curdling oaths of allegiance to ancient Babylonian, Egyptian and Jewish demon gods. Both have sworn on pain of death not to reveal the secrets of their Masonic orders. Both have been initiated into the age-old Illuminati global network, which is obsessed with death and murder. I mean, are we being ruled by politicians who consult with Baphomets and demons?
Yes, we are. The way the world is structured is like a compartmentalized pyramid, and it's pyramids within pyramids, like Russian dolls, one doll inside a bigger doll inside a bigger doll. So you'll have a compartmentalized pyramid that is the British government, for instance, where the people at the bottom don't know what the top is really going towards, what the agenda really is. Just as in in a bank, you've got a bank, and the people at the bottom of the bank who take the checks over the counter, they don't know what's going on above them, and they don't know what's going on above them. And eventually, in all these pyramids, you have a tiny little number of people at the top that are actually the only people that know how the whole game fits together. Everyone else is just playing their part in ignorance. And so what the Illuminati do is they make sure that only their people, or those that are not a problem to them, will reach those levels of power in which decisions have to be made to push this agenda forward. When people say sometimes, well, you see these people everywhere, you see these one and these one other. No, hold on a second. No, they're at these high positions of power. Therefore, because of this process of filtering them out, if you're not one of us, mate, you ain't going to get sponsored by the right people to get these positions of power. And if you slip through the net, there's going to be a scandal, or there's going to be something we're going to bring up that's going to bring you down because you're not one of our guys. And so therefore, the ratio of people who are into these dark satanic rituals, etc., to positions of real power in the world are very, very high compared with the general population, where it's nothing like as high, of course. And so the question answers itself, in my experience, when people say, do you think the Prime Minister of Britain's involved? And my reply is he the Prime Minister of Britain? Yeah, well, he's involved, particularly Britain, because the reason, you see, that you cannot put a cigarette paper between the British Prime Minister ever and the President of the United States, whether Democrat or Republican, is because both are answering to exactly the same masters. And Blair and Bush, who are gophers, I mean, the real power you don't see. They're just, they're on public display, they're still at gopher level. They are far more terrified of those in the shadows dictating to them than they are of public reaction to them. Because the most that public reaction can do is kick them out. It's not the most that the people in the shadows can do. I was talking years indeed before Blair came to power, that Blair was a chosen one and that he would be brought through. And one of his tasks would be to take Britain into the euro, among many other things. And this is why Bush and Blair speak from the same song sheet, because the same people are handing out the song sheets. So yes, absolutely is involved. And so are the British royal family in horrendous rituals that go on at places like Balmoral. And if what really goes on comes out, and it will, people like Bush and Blair and the British royal family will have to reincarnate many times to complete the sentence.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, let's do it. That's to me. Okay, that's to me. Okay, that's to me. Okay, that's to me.
I was an FBI agent for 27.5 years. At the time of my retirement, I was the senior special agent in charge of the FBI Los Angeles Division. I have been qualified in the courts as an expert on cults and satanic ritual abuse. I have information from various sources that judges, law enforcement, prosecutors, attorneys, doctors, and many prominent individuals, including actors, actresses, professional football and baseball players, are involved in these type activities.
If the many authors on the subject of the occult are correct, and Tony Blair has been initiated into the 33rd degree, then his pseudo-Christian morals will be compromised by the fact that devil worshippers and high-ranking Freemasons have walked through the corridors of power hand in hand for centuries. The Royal Archmasons describe their highest-ranking brothers as Grand Solicitor Generals of the Supreme Grand Chapter. There is a secret word, the name of the true Masonic God, which none are allowed to say in public. This name is Yarbulon. The Masonic God is not the same God of the Bible, which the Masons call Adonai. Yarbulon has been described by Christian minister Canon Brian Brindley as an unholy compound of the Hebrew name of God, Jehovah, with the heathen names for Baal and Osiris. The highest ranks of Freemasonry utter Yarbulon as the one sacred and mysterious name of God. Yarbulon is a tripantheon Masonic god, in part deified as the historical Baal, which the Oxford English Dictionary confirms as being a Hebrew word. Baal is the chief male deity of the Phoenician and Canaanite nations. To the tribes of the Old Testament, Baal was the devil himself. Albert Pike is America's most celebrated Freemason. Pike was Grand Commander Sovereign Pontiff of Scottish Rite Freemasonry in the southern and western United States from 1859 to 1891. Scottish Rite Freemasonry has its own headquarters at the 33rd degree in Edinburgh. The United Grand Lodge of England has tried to deny that the true god of Masonry is Yarbulon, or has anything to do with the devil. But Albert Pike describes Yarbulon as a symbol of the infinite and eternal Godhead, a mongrel word whose name has been for 2,000 years an appellation of the devil. On the 14th of July 1889, Albert Pike issued these instructions to 23 Scottish Rite Supreme Councils throughout the world. We worship a God, but it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspectors General, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 30th, 31st, and 32nd degrees. The Masonic religion should be the Luciferian doctrine. Lucifer is God. The true and pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer. So, Yarbulon is really an alternative name for the devil. The last syllable, on, is a code name for the ancient Egyptian god Osiris, who was the god of the dead. There can be no doubt that the Scottish Rite form of Freemasonry in America and Britain is controlled by high-ranking 33rd degree Masons who worship Satan or Lucifer as their god.
So what was once firmly in the world of make-believe, camouflage can be the difference between a soldier getting shot and going home. So a lot's riding on the next generation designed to outfit troops. It's only been 8 years since the Army spent $5 billion on camo that critics say didn't fool anyone. Soldiers complained to the point the Army abandoned its one-size-fits-all universal pattern. So Guy Kramer is one of the designers competing to win the Army's next multi-million-dollar contract. This summer, he showed us the science behind every shape, size, and shade of these pixels.
You now have your camouflage.
Digital patterns recreate shapes already found in nature, and 3D layering creates depth and shadows where none exist. That's today's design, but developers already have one eye on. The military has seen the so-called quantum stealth technology. It works by bending the light around an object, even concealing most of a person's shadow. Imagine what that could do for a sniper hiding in a field, or the American pilots who ejected over Libya when they're.
It was once something that belonged only to science fiction.
The technology comes from 2003, but its developers say the Harry Potter-like invisibility cloak is just the beginning. The team, led by Dr. Susumu Tachi from Keio University, retro-reflective projection technology uses a computer, a video camera and projector to shine background images onto the front of a subject wearing specialized clothing. Which can reflect light directly back at the source, much like a movie screen. Viewed from near the light source, the projection is bright even in broad daylight, and researchers say the material can be applied to almost anything. In the short term, the team sees usage in car interiors, airplanes and helicopters. They say blind spots could be eliminated and accidents and hard landings avoided by making walls seemingly transparent. The eventual goal, though, is to create an augmented reality that allows anyone to easily see information on real-world objects.
Looking to the future, instead of glasses, people could wear this, and it would act as a navigation system. It could also tell you who someone is if you meet them around town.
In the few years since the technology's invention, the price of the material, as well as that of computing, has come down, opening the door for smaller yet more powerful applications. Whether used to increase safety or to create a whole new form of computer-human interaction, the world is likely to see, or possibly not see, more of this technology in the future.
A cientista Catherine Solomon tem um laboratório ultramoderno no centro de apoio do Museu Smithsonian em Silver Hill, Maryland. Os 464 metros quadrados do laboratório armazenam milhões de espécies e artefatos, mas não existe um departamento de noética. Mas existe um laboratório real localizado do outro lado do país, nas colinas do norte da Califórnia. Dentro do Instituto de Ciências Noéticas, os pesquisadores conduzem estudos sobre as possibilidades da mente humana.
Em toda a história e culturas, as pessoas dizem ter capacidade para usar suas mentes ou a consciência para influenciar o mundo físico. O que fazemos é criar um paradigma experimental que nos permite estudar esses relatos em laboratório sob condições científicas controladas.
No experimento sobre intenção, por exemplo, o objetivo é determinar se uma pessoa, ao olhar para outra em um local separado, pode afetar a saúde física daquela pessoa. O sujeito é conectado a um equipamento de eletrocardiograma em uma sala isolada revestida de chumbo, parecida com o cubo isolado usado no laboratório. Esta sala é a prova de som e isolada das ondas de rádio, então não há como trapacear. As imagens no monitor são intercaladas aleatoriamente entre a do sujeito e a do observador. Toda vez que o rosto do sujeito aparece, o observador tenta enviar pensamentos positivos e curativos.
O que queremos saber é se quando a atenção é concentrada na pessoa distante, isso mexe com sua fisiologia. Se acontece o mesmo quando apenas ouvem seus nomes, por exemplo. Se quando não estão sendo olhadas, elas se acalmam. Essa é a essência do experimento.
O sujeito não tem ideia de quando sua imagem irá aparecer no monitor, então não há como ele tentar provocar uma reação física. Pesquisadores descobriram uma conexão importante entre os pensamentos positivos de um sujeito e a resposta física do outro.
Vemos esses efeitos em laboratórios diferentes, então algo acontece.
A questão é, isso realmente tem efeitos curativos?
O mais impressionante é que esse efeito parece acontecer sem nenhuma conexão física.
Se não há um sinal e nada partiu de algum ponto, deve haver mais alguma coisa. O que podemos pensar sobre isso é que nossa ideia de espaço na conexão entre duas pessoas não é completamente correta.
Quando o filósofo e matemático francês René Descartes fez um pacto com a igreja para evitar perseguição.
A igreja disse, tudo bem, vamos deixar você fazer ciência. Não vamos considerá-lo um herege, mas vamos fazer um trato. Você estuda os aspectos físicos e deixa os aspectos da alma e da consciência conosco. Ainda estamos vivendo sob o legado dessa negociação política, segundo o qual a ciência acredita que a única área relevante e válida para se pesquisar são os aspectos físicos materiais.
Um experimento sugere que podemos ser capazes de enxergar o futuro. O sujeito é conectado a um aparelho de eletroencefalograma enquanto usa óculos e fones de ouvido com LEDs especiais. Os LEDs piscam e um tom de áudio toca em um padrão aleatório, acionando uma reação fisiológica.
Eles veem uma luz ou ouvem um tom em momentos aleatórios. Não sabem quando, nem eu sei. O computador decide quando isso vai ocorrer.
De acordo com o Dr. Radin, os testes mostraram que o corpo reage antes de a luz piscar e de os tons de áudio tocarem. É como se o corpo estivesse enxergando o futuro em uma fração de segundo.
Eu uso o termo pressentimento como um pressentimento, ao contrário de uma pré-cognição.
Que se isso pode parecer impossível, muitos dos avanços científicos de hoje também pareciam inimagináveis para os pais fundadores.
Para a ciência, isso era loucura, há cerca de 100 anos. Não havia ação à distância e ponto. Duas coisas só podiam interagir se houvesse proximidade entre elas. A mecânica quântica e a relatividade mudaram isso.
Quanto mais se sabe, mais se quer ocultar. Para se salvar, ele pergunta a um estranho: não haverá esperança para o filho da viúva? A frase é de verdade um sinal secreto de perigo da maçonaria. Há uma cerimônia real na qual trabalham apenas os maçons de alto grau. Suas origens datam de crenças maçônicas antigas e é considerado o ritual maçônico mais sagrado. A peça apresenta Hiram Abif, o arquiteto, chefe do templo do rei Salomão, que se depara com um grupo de ladrões. Esses homens ameaçam matar Hiram a menos que ele revele uma senha secreta. Irã se recusa e antes de ser morto pergunta: não haverá esperança para o filho da viúva? Hoje, a coragem e a fidelidade de Irã em manter sua palavra, em não revelar o segredo, é um princípio central para todos os maçons. Branch Rickey, dono de um time de beisebol de primeira divisão, contratou o primeiro jogador afro-americano, Jackie Robinson. Um ícone da literatura, Mark Twain, escreveu Tom Sawyer e Huckleberry Finn, e John Glenn foi o primeiro americano a orbitar a Terra. Infelizmente, também existiram as ovelhas negras da maçonaria, como o traidor Benedict Arnold, o polêmico diretor do FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, e até mesmo o cruel ditador comunista Joseph Stalin pode ter sido maçom. Sua ligação com os corredores do poder fez com que muitos pensassem que os maçons tinham segredos sinistros. O fato de os maçons buscarem uma missão e um sistema de crenças superior não impediu a ação de seus inimigos. A batalha entre a luz e a escuridão estava prestes a começar. Os maçons. Entre eles estão os homens mais poderosos do país. É possível derrubar uma sociedade tão poderosa? A descrição associada à maçonaria alimentou as suspeitas e o medo entre os leigos desde a fundação do país.
Acredita-se que os maçons tenham algum tipo de influência sobre outros membros que transcende sua obrigação para com a família e o Estado. Então a maçonaria é um grupo sombrio e subversivo que faz coisas ruins.
Mas nem sempre foi assim. No início da Revolução Americana, muitos maçons se alistaram.
O fato de a maçonaria ser importante na vida de Washington, de ele ter assentado a pedra angular do Capitólio como maçom, chamou muita atenção para a maçonaria e a tornou muito popular.
Sua popularidade, entretanto, significou uma ameaça aos líderes religiosos preocupados com as crenças deístas dos maçons. Como as pessoas desenvolveram uma imagem deturpada da maçonaria. Isso é verdade. Com o tempo, uma rajada de acusações alimentou os medos de muitos não-maçons que pensavam no que realmente acontecia dentro dos templos maçônicos.
Tudo que é secreto cria suspeitas, principalmente em uma república onde se diz que todos são iguais. Portanto, houve muitas suspeitas sobre os maçons.
Que essas suspeitas eclodiram em 1826 com o desaparecimento de um maçom conhecido e insatisfeito, chamado William Morgan. É dito que quando Morgan anunciou que estava escrevendo um livro expondo os segredos maçônicos, vários maçons planejaram seu sequestro.
Ele desapareceu, provavelmente foi assassinado.
3 maçons foram condenados, mas receberam sentenças mínimas.
Chegamos muito perto de um pânico nacional antimaçônico. Lojas foram queimadas. Maçons foram ridicularizados. Alguns apanhavam nas ruas. Em algumas lojas, o número de membros quase chegou a 0.
Nos anos de 1830, o partido antimaçônico foi formado e nomeou um ex-procurador-geral, William Wirt. Wirt concorreu contra o maçom Andrew Jackson e perdeu. Ele logo foi esquecido na história. Mas depois de mais de 1 século e meio, William Wirt esteve nas manchetes novamente.
Alguém violou o túmulo de William Wirt, cortou sua cabeça e levou seu crânio.
O roubo permaneceu insolúvel durante 30 anos, até que um anônimo afirmou estar de posse do crânio.
Recebemos uma ligação anônima e não soubemos mais nada durante 1 ano. O vereador Jim Graham, aqui de Washington, D.C., nos informou que o crânio havia sido levado a ele para garantir que voltasse para o lugar de direito.
Nunca se soube por que o crânio foi roubado. Talvez tenha sido usado em estranhos rituais. Talvez tenha sido apenas uma brincadeira. William Wirt foi um símbolo do sentimento antimaçônico que continuaria prejudicando a sociedade secreta. Mas durante esse tempo, um novo grupo maçônico adquiriu poder, o rito escocês. Segundo algumas pessoas, eles tinham um lado sombrio, o que causava suspeitas.